This is a really difficult question.
Oh, that's a great question.
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a great question.
That's a really good question.
I love this question, and I think this really is going to help me kind of meditate and grow on it.
Want to hear the answers? Check out Season 2 of New Media Lab with Robert Southgate. New episodes every Tuesday. Available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and wherever you subscribe to your favorite podcasts.
Hey everybody, this is Dianne. Hello and welcome to Biters.
And this is Marnell, and I want my dish back clean when you're done with it. Oh, I love Savage Carol.
Yes, I do too, especially because you could really see exactly who she was looking at when she was looking at Pete.
Oh, exactly.
And it was Ed.
Ed, her
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, like both just porch dicks all the way.
Did you ever listen to the YouTube song that Corey Brill wrote about porch dick?
Okay, this is sounding familiar, but no, I don't think I did.
Oh my god, it's totally hilarious. You have to look it up on YouTube, and for anyone else who's listening, it's totally worth looking up, because he talks about what a great guy he is and how he totally got reduced to the moniker that was given to him by Chris Hardwick.
Oh, okay. This is sounding familiar. I think I may have listened to it once, or you like played it for me while we were off air or something. Yeah. So
It's super funny.
I wrote myself a note, porch dick song. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, wow,
You're
that
like,
was way
what was that?
I had way too much Moscato last night. Which, by the way, I didn't do dry January, but dry January is definitely over. I was sick 2 weeks, and I didn't even indulge myself with a hot toddy, so I've had like bottle and a half of Moscato tonight.
I love Moscato.
So let's kick this pig.
All right. Yes, so if you go on YouTube and look up the Ballad of Porch Dick, Corey Brill sings at you.
14th.
Whoops. Unfortunately, you get an ad as well. So, but it's totally worth looking it up. So, the Ballad of Porch Dick on YouTube.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So we are podcasting season 5, episode 16, Conquer, which was my choice.
And it premiered on March 29th, 2015. So almost 4 years.
Right. So we've been all over the map with our episodes. This is the end of episode 5, or end of season 5. So we're kind of like at the end of everything we've talked about in all of our retrospectives. And our next retrospective is the Boondock Saints 2. So it won't have anything to do with this. So we're kind of wrapping a whole bunch of stuff in before we get to the second half of season 9.
Because continuity doesn't matter.
No, linear storytelling is it's just all in your mind. Reality is what you make it. Time isn't real. Time is a social construct.
I like it.
Yeah, no, try and give your dogs medication an hour late because of daylight saving time. Yeah, no, it doesn't happen. They're like, you're late.
Especially if that medication is wrapped in something worthwhile.
Peanut butter.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, no, time isn't real. It's a human social construct. So linear storytelling is not real.
It's a human social construct.
Exactly. That's why we've been jumping all over the map this retrospective season. But one more week of a retrospective, Boondock Saints 2, and then
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead.
Yay!
Happy almost Valentine's Day. Early Valentine's Day, which is also not a thing. It's like made up by Hallmark and like people who sell roses.
Yeah, that's okay. If I get roses, I'll be happy.
I'll take calla lilies on any other day. Like, don't give me anything on Valentine's Day because it's 3 times the price as it would be any other day.
Too funny.
November 1st is National 50% off Halloween candy day, and February 15th is National Heart-shaped box 50% off day. But I'm an accountant. I'm very prudent with my money. Buy it for me when it's 50% off. Like a day later, it tastes just as good.
The roses might be a little wilted.
Yeah, I don't like cut flowers. Give me a plant.
All right, speaking of give me your rating.
4.45 Alaskan license plate.
Oh, yay, the Alaskan license plate. It was even one of the old style ones.
I know. I was like, oh, when he pulled it up, I was like, be Alaskan. And it was Alaskan. Because of course it was like the furthest away from the furthest away state besides Hawaii, which you could have got if you'd have found like a Coasties plate or something, a Coast Guard member's plate. But yeah, Alaskan is pretty cool.
He had a pretty impressive collection. I can't remember if he had a Hawaiian one or not, but that was his first Alaska plate.
It was. He was pretty stoked about that.
Yeah.
Stoked enough, he did not see the trap. So what was your rating?
Well, I have to confess, I didn't like it as much as you did. So I gave it a 3.8 out of 5 red poncho walkers.
Awesome. I have like the next hour and a half to talk you up.
You're going to have to do some serious talking.
This is a great episode. So it was between this episode and the episode that Jesus first appeared at, because I absolutely loved that boxcar full of supplies going into the water. Like, for some reason that just, I don't know, it's funny to me. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy and awful at the same time, which is The Walking Dead. Warm and fuzzy and awful.
I like that. It's true.
Yeah, but we had to talk about this episode because of the parallels with what our group is going through now.
So you're going to talk me off that ledge too, right?
There's a ledge? I have to talk you off a ledge? You did not see the parallels?
I think I'm tired, and I don't think I liked it very much.
We'll get into it.
All right.
Go.
I've got some numbers for you.
And they're good, because we're still in season 5.
Right. So 15.8 million viewers live plus same day, making it the most watched season finale in the show. Holy cow. What did I just have happen on my...
I love that it was like, hey!
My computer is talking to me.
Your computer, like, that was not Siri.
Yeah, and I don't even know where it's coming from. I have a tab open, but...
Your Tinder date was like, hey, is this a bad time?
All right. So 15.8 million views, most watched season finale in the show, and most watched drama in basic cable history.
Amazing. Are you legit?
21.43 million views in DVR.
See? This was an awesome episode.
Good critical reception with high praise for Lenny James and Greg Nicotero.
Telling you.
I'm not there yet.
I picked me a winner.
It does make me mournful for the big number days, though. I know we've talked so much about how people watch TV differently, but I was listening to an older episode of a Walking Dead podcast today, and they were talking about how the numbers were gradually falling in season 7. Not even gradually, kind of precipitously falling in season 7 after the season 7 premiere. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think right about season 6, season 7, people started to fall off. And not fall off is like just in they stopped watching the show. There were a few of those, but I think that a lot of people fell off in that, like, they would save up the entire season on their DVR and then binge watch it, or they would wait until the next season came out and start binge watching it before, or they would buy it on DVD. And but like, I don't think people were watching it live +3, live +10.
Well,
you know,
and truthfully, a lot of people jumped because of the Abraham and Glenn deaths.
Oh, I so miss Abraham.
I miss them both. They were great characters. But would their deaths make me jump the ship? No.
Just the Abrahamism in this episode maybe go, oh, I miss Abraham.
Oh my God, I totally missed the Abrahamism.
Ugh, we'll get into it.
Did I watch the same episode you did? I did watch Conquer. I did watch season 5, episode 16, the season finale.
So I will
I remember
PG-13 it down.
Now. I remember it.
Yeah,
There's
a vast ocean of crap.
Yes.
That you don't know crap about.
Yes.
And Rick knows every fine grain crap and then some.
Yes, I remember now.
Yeah. Only he didn't say crap.
All right.
I'm just being PG-13 because that's how we roll.
So what do you have on the title? What do you think Conquer was all about?
So conquer means to overcome and to take control of a place or people by using military force.
Oh, very good. So Rick was conquering Alexandria.
Right. We had a lot of people conquering a lot of things. We had Sasha conquering her, whatever the heck she was going through, laying down with Deadpot. Yeah, with Gabriel, and Gabriel conquering whatever BS thing Gabriel was conquering.
Don't get me started on Gabriel.
I know. Yeah. It's my bad. And then, of course, we had Rick basically kind of conquering and taking control of a place or people.
Alexandria.
In Alexandria. Yeah. And, we had Glenn conquering Nicholas. And so, there was a lot of conquering going on if you look at the literal verb conquering.
So the other thing, and I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember that the titles in the back half of season 5 were linked?
Yes. It was, what's his name?
Dale's quote.
Dale's quote,
So
yes.
Dale said, "I like what the father said to the son when he gave him a watch that had been handed down through generations. He said, 'I give you a mausoleum of all hope and desire, which will fit your individual needs no better than it did mine and my father before me. I give it to you not that you may remember time, but that you may forget it for a moment now and then, and not spend all of your breath trying to conquer it.'" And the titles...
Oh, man, I want that, carved into some, pallet wood decoration thing in my living room rather than live, laugh, love. That's some profound stuff right there.
And I don't know if it's a direct quote of Faulkner or if it's kind of an interpretation of William Faulkner, but it's from William Faulkner's writing. And the titles were Remember, Forget, Spend, Try, and Conquer.
Love it.
The other thing that I thought of too, just because of the quote being about a watch, was Herschel's watch.
Yes. And that stuck out in my mind too.
But I agree. Good on you for looking at the straight up definition of conquer. That's totally legit for this episode. There was a lot of conquering going on.
Yeah, none of it made sense until I looked up the literal translation of the word conquer. Literal definition. So, because I was like, conquering what? It's not like we're actually conquering Alexandria or anything. So,
but yeah, it kind of was.
He did, but not in the way that he anticipated.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, our writers were Scott M. Gimple. Nothing needs to be said about him. And then a guy named Seth Hoffman. And Seth has 10 writer credits for Walking Dead, and he has also been a producer on The Walking Dead. His other writing credits include Vegas, House, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, which must have been the second Ghost Rider movie.
Maybe. Was there a third?
I don't know.
Okay.
I kind of half watched the first one. Blasphemy.
I half watched the second one.
Flash forward, Prison Break the TV series, and then Prison Break the Final Break, which was a movie. I remember Brian saying he really liked Flash Forward.
I had heard good things. I heard that it was short-lived and much to the dismay of its hardcore fans. Love the show House.
Yes.
So, yes, please.
I think I've said it before. I will say it again. House always says the things that you wish you could say when you work in healthcare.
Right? It's the thing you're thinking.
It is.
Yeah, it's the thing you're thinking.
Like when he talks to the anti-vax mom about tiny little coffins.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite lines.
Considering Oregon's having a measles outbreak.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I was fully vaccinated as a child, and I'm completely normal other than my, true crime podcast obsession and my alcoholism. It's fine.
Speaking of which, we're going to totally go off the map here. Did they ever post the Seattle episodes of My Favorite Murder?
I don't know if they did for the regular public. That may be a Murderino, like the Insider, you pay $29 a year or whatever for their special content.
Okay. I'm not caught up, so I wasn't sure if they had published them or not.
Okay. Yeah. So, I had gone to the My Favorite Murder live podcast in Seattle. So that's why Diane's asking, because I got a meet and greet with the Karen and Georgia who host the show. And they told me something in confidence, which I won't repeat here, but it has not come to fruition yet. So I really need to call them out on the carpet for it.
But I'm trusting you to let me know when it does.
Because I am a murderino. I'll pay my $30 a year. I got the t-shirt.
So shout out, if you like true crime, listen to My Favorite Murder.
Listen to My Favorite Murder.
Yeah.
And I have a really cool podcast. I think I told you about this on one show. It's put on by the inmates at San Quentin.
Ear Hustle.
Called Ear Hustle.
Yeah.
I love Ear Hustle.
I have not listened to it yet. I've got a bunch loaded on my phone and I haven't listened yet. Totally worth it, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
it
very
really,
cool.
It really, really gives you the other perspective. I mean, these guys have like whole other lives and stuff. And there was one episode recently where they were talking about someone being executed on death row. And, one of the guys is like, hey, man, should we pray for him or have some memorial, or like, should we do something to just kind of make the day in remembrance or special for that guy? And someone else was like, F that guy. And then somebody else was like, he committed the same thing that you did. He just happened to like get a bad prosecutor or a bad defense attorney. Like we're all half of us are in here for murder. Those guys are in here for murder. Like none of us are innocent, So it was talking about the misapplication of the law and special circumstances around crimes, and also our inequality in the judicial system. And so it's just a really, really interesting podcast that's put on by the inmates of San Quentin. So love that podcast.
I've got to listen. Maybe I'll do that this week. Maybe I'll take a break from Walking Dead reruns and do that.
And it's not a super downer. It's super interesting, and they keep it funny. And there is great music. There is seriously some singer-songwriters in San Quentin where I'm like, dude, I would buy your album and listen to it all the time.
So they feature musicians from the inmate population, huh?
Oh, yeah. So San Quentin has a whole media studio. They podcast. They have the only national newspaper for jails that's syndicated throughout the U.S. And they have a television, internal television show, and they have musical acts. Like, it is a city within a city. And these people are just living their lives as best as they can.
That is super interesting.
It is super interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so I totally need to listen to it. I have it on my phone, and I obviously have not paid any attention, so now I need to do it.
You know what other podcast is really great? Biters.
Yeah, Biters. That Walking Dead podcast that we were talking about a few minutes ago.
Which Peloton needs to sponsor me. I totally dragged you on Twitter. I hope you listen. I hope you send me a free bike, and I hope you sponsor the podcast.
Cool. I'd take a Peloton.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh. Good time.
So, the only other thing I wanted to say about writer-director is that our director was Greg Nicotero. Again, nothing really needs to be said.
Of course he was.
Well, there were some good gags in the episode, right?
Was there?
Well, all those walkers that got shot in the head.
Oh, okay.
All those walkers that Sasha buried and then laid herself on.
I'm so conflicted about that scene.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, I was honestly what I was thinking at that point when she was like laying down all depressed. Yeah, she lost Bob. She lost Tyrese. But you know what? We're like 2.5 years into the apocalypse now. You really should you should be able to compartmentalize that sort of trauma.
Yeah, but we're not that far from losing them.
No, we're not that far from losing them, but I feel like you probably should have lost a lot of people along the way, and also kind of like you're in a group and you're like, those three people are not apocalypse survivors; they're just hangers on. You know?
I don't think that makes it okay.
It doesn't, but I just know I feel like she was more affected than she needed to be, and then Gabriel had to latch onto that, which we will totally get into. So
harsh.
I was very harsh. I loved this episode, but yeah, there were some harsh times in this episode.
Well, so talk to me about our featured cast.
So our featured cast, I have spent like the last 10 minutes trying to pronounce her last name. Her first name is Tova Feldsche. That's as good as I can get it. I'm sorry if I slaughtered your name.
And her birth name was actually Terry Sue Feldsche, which I just think is crazy. I love that she took her Hebrew name as her stage name.
Was her last name Feldsche?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's not exactly what I meant to do on my computer. Technical difficulties. So we were talking about
Tova was Dianne Monroe.
Yes, Dianne, thank you.
And while you're getting back to where you want to be on your computer, I can say a few things. So she has 106 actress credits on IMDb, and she had 14 total episodes as Deanna on The Walking Dead. Her most recent credit was a short called June, but it sounds like you have even more recent credits than that. You were telling me some stuff before we signed on.
I do. So 6-time Tony and Emmy nominated. Can you believe that? 6 times Tony and Emmy nominated. Like, is the bridesmaid, never a bride. Tova was recently on a Broadway show entitled, and I always lose it. Oh,
And the dogs are losing it too.
So it's playwright Jeff Cohen's Soap Myth, SOAPMYTH, and it is the 9th engagement of the commemorating of the Holocaust Remembrance Day. So it is a very limited run, but it kind of sounds like they do it every year. And I think this was the first run for Tova, but I think she'll be invited back. So the play kind of deals with the Holocaust, of course, and it is kind of told from the viewpoint of someone who survived it, someone who studied it, and someone who denies it. And it's basically how the myth of our history sort of evolve. And there's something in there that's very, very squicky. I didn't get too far into it, but the reason why it's called the soap myth is because one of the ways that you make soap is through human body fat.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some squicky thing in there that I don't really feel like talking about on our podcast, but it sounded like a super thought-provoking, deeply interesting show that is also sort of a political hot button issue for a lot of people. So this is neither time nor the place. I won't get into it. However,
it sounds really good.
It sounds really good. And it is by playwright Jeff Cohen. He's a playwright, theater director, and producer. Not to be confused with the Jeff Cohen who played Chunk in the Goonies.
Oh my God, that's really funny.
I was looking up her stuff and I'm like, why do I know that name Jeff Cohen? Why do I know that name Jeff Cohen? And so apparently there are like 3 famous Jeff Cohens, but there is definitely one who is a playwright, theater director, producer, and there's definitely a different one who played Chunk on the Goonies. So
it's really funny.
Right. So Jeff Cohen, the playwright, actually has a ton of great stuff out there, and it kind of sounds like he plans working a lot with Tova in the future. So her current show that she has going on that is Broadway bound.
This also sounds amazing.
It sounds amazing. So if you do not know who Leona Helmsley was, please Google her immediately. She is basically Donald Trump as a female, only more awful. And
but you're not getting political at all.
No. And what I mean by more awful is that she was indicted for her tax evasion. She actually hit her staff, Naomi Campbell style, like she threw phones and cups at them. And she sued her own son and won. So this woman was a billionaire. She was a amazing real estate up and comer. At the same time, in New York as our president, they were kind of rivals. Actually, there's a lot of great stuff out there about both of them.
And she was called the Queen of Mean.
She was the Queen of Mean. This woman was terrible, but she was amazing at everything she did. She was amazing at business. She was amazing at being a horrendous mother and wife, and just she was super interesting. She died in 2007. I honestly wish she were alive and well today and had a Twitter account. I mean, that is all I want is Leona Helmsley and a Twitter account. Some super sassy person needs to start a Leona Helmsley in memoriam Twitter account and just tweet out mean crap.
All right. It sounds to me like you have found your next calling on Twitter.
Right? I need to be the next Leona Helmsley, but I don't have billions of dollars and a real estate empire.
But you can do a Twitter account.
I can do that. So, yes. So Tova will be starring as Leona Helmsley in a Broadway-bound musical about the Queen of Mean. And everything about that just sounds amazing. I mean, add mimosa and I'm there.
I don't know. You kind of had me at Tova Felcha. I think she's really amazing. I remember her being on Talking Dead after the episode where she died. And she was just ferocious. I just loved her.
So she had a one-woman show Tova Out of Her Mind. Sold out at the London West End in the Duke of York. And she also had, and I don't know if it was a one-woman show, but she also had, let's see, Tova On and Off and Now Under Broadway. And another sold-out speaking engagement called Aging is Optional. So she just sounds like somebody I just want to sit down and listen to talk. Like, not even talk with her, but just listen to her speak.
Oh, it looks like there's at least some excerpts from Tova Out of Her Mind on YouTube.
Oh, goldmine.
Very cool.
So, Miss Feldensha, is super highbrow for our podcast. So I'll just kind of roll through these. She's been nominated for so many different awards, and they're so highbrow. I don't even know what they are.
But she did get a nomination for a Walking Dead award. So she didn't win, but she got a nomination from the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, USA, Best Supporting Actress on Television.
Oh, good.
For her Walking Dead role. So I'm sorry that she didn't win.
Oh, as a bridesmaid.
And then her Emmy Awards, she got nominated but did not win for Law and Order.
And then Tony Awards.
For Holocaust.
Yes. So she was educated at Sarah Lawrence College. She was a winner of the McKnight Fellowship to Guthrie Theater and the University of Minnesota. She is taught at Yale, Cornell, and New York universities and was awarded an honorary doctorate of humane letters. Humane letters. I always try to highlight a charity if the celebrity has an obvious one. Tova's
Leona.
Leona. I almost call it. I really want her to see her play Leona. So Tova's charity of choice is Seeds of Peace, a nonprofit, non-political organization that helps teenagers from regions of conflict and is the recipient of the Roosevelt Humanitarian Award, Voice for Humanity Award, and the Israel Peace Medal.
Cool.
She is married to New York attorney Andrew Harris Levy.
And they've been married since 1977, which is no mean feat.
They have 2 children, and they just welcomed their first grandbaby in November.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. So she sounds amazing. I would love to meet her. I would love to hang out with her. She's got some super funny stuff on her Instagram. Her Twitter kind of mainly links to her Instagram, so I don't know why bother, just check her out on Instagram. But I mean, she's got a few minor political things. She wears a pink pussy hat, so that tells you her political leaning. But she's not super overt about it. Most of her stuff is about her current works and her life and, posting pretty pictures of when she was in Tahiti and what she had for breakfast and things like that. So it's kind of very benign on Instagram. She's kind of safe no matter what your political leanings. But she is just super funny and super entertaining and girl power. And she was in an episode of Law and Order.
She was in 13 episodes of Law and Order.
Dun dun.
And not only that, but she played the same character in Law and Order Criminal Intent, and then another series, and I can't remember what the other series was.
Super crossovers, dang.
Let me see if I can find it. Chicago Justice was the other series. So she played a character named Danielle Melnick.
Oh, and I forget what I just read about that character. And it had something to do with Judaism. Because she's super into her religion. She's Jewish. She is, she celebrates all of the holidays. She's not pushy about her religion, but she's very into the history and the culture of her religion. So it does not surprise me that she has taken roles that bring that out in her.
I say super cool for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool gal. I was a little nervous about doing her as a featured cast member just because it's one of those where she doesn't have a huge presence on social media, or she doesn't do a lot of interviews, or she doesn't have a lot out there like the younger actors and actresses. But dang, man, for her age, she is holding her own and doing it well. Oh, and by the way, her unfiltered Instagram pictures, she looks way better than she did as Deanna in Walking Dead.
Yeah, she looked kind of crepey. Dry skin, kind of crepey.
Yeah, in Walking Dead,
Sorry, that's my computer talking again.
That's her Tinder profile going, hey, give me attention. So no, I feel like, and I've talked about this with Tara too, I feel like The Walking Dead has a really good way of de-beautifying these actresses, even down from a normal line women without makeup, and then there's Walking Dead look. You see them in their award show stuff or when they're doing interviews and stuff, and they're all nicely made up and everything. But then you see them on their Instagram pictures where they're there's no filter or anything. And, you see wrinkles and things like that. They made her look awful as Deanna. She's beautiful in real life.
She really
even
is.
Without a filter. Yeah, she's great. I love her. Yep. I'm sad she's off the show now that I have done a ton of research about her, but I really, really encourage anybody who is in the area that is able to go see any of her Broadway, off-Broadway, one-man, whatever it is, shows that she is in, go see it, because I'm sure it's phenomenal.
And check out www.seedsofpeace.org.
Excellent. All right. So that was our featured cast member.
All right. I am going to try to get rid of the things on my computer that are talking to me.
Okay, I'm not even joking. When Diane texted me, I was like, so Deanna should be our cast member of choice. I texted her back the meme of Abe saying, "Who's Deanna?" And she's like, LOL. You're joking, right?
I wasn't sure. Sometimes you are serious when I'm not sure you're being serious.
It's that dry wit.
Yes.
Well, that dryness is over.
Well, my dear. Oh, it's Moscato laden now, huh? Moscato Monday. It's not Monday, it's Tuesday.
But it is the Mondayest Tuesday ever. So much so that I don't believe tomorrow is Wednesday. I feel like I'm going to wake up and tomorrow is going to be Tuesday all over again.
Oh, God.
Which is fine, because then it's Moscato Monday again. All right. Do you have any Whisperer's Corner?
I have a teensy-weensy little thing for Whisperer's Corner. So it looks like The Walking Dead has cast Lydia, who is the daughter of Alpha, the main Whisperer.
Okay.
And
did you see that little mini teaser trailer that keeps happening in front of YouTube videos?
No, I haven't watched any teasers yet.
Okay, so it's 15 seconds long, and I think we see her because there's a girl in a cage who is
okay, so
you don't want to meet my mom type thing. Yeah,
Daryl puts her in a cell.
Mm-hmm.
So, it'll be interesting to see how they play Lydia, because her role in the comic book was pretty significant. Yeah, so I'll have to do some catching up on the Whisperer's War. I'm not quite through that arc in the comic book yet.
But I'm sorry, Lydia, you're having a huge character in the books means zilch now.
Right? It means nothing on the show. Nothing. Nope. But that's all I have, is that we've got a Lydia, and she's played by an actress named Cassidy McClinty.
That sounds familiar for some reason.
And that was from theinquisitor.com. The only other stuff that I see in Walking Dead news is what we already kind of know, which is that there are some flashbacks that are coming in this coming season.
Yeah, and Angela Kang was like, oh, we don't like to tell the story in flashback. And I'm like, what show have you been watching for the past 9 years?
They don't use a lot of flashbacks, but they do use flashbacks.
More than I'm comfortable with.
They use an okay amount for me. It's not too much.
Look, Willy Wonky timelines are fine for podcasts, but when you have a hit show, you really need to tell a linear story.
I don't agree.
I'm already having to keep up of where we are between the 2 shows. Now we're probably going to add a 3rd show and 4 movies. I'm going to have that Always Sunny in Philadelphia conspiracy board behind me, and we're going to start podcasting this on YouTube.
Oh, then you get to produce it and take your cues from Phil, because I'm not going there.
No, we're totally not doing that, because it would be me in front of a conspiracy board in one of my facials with a glass of wine.
That could actually work.
It totally could. Unless I did one of my charcoal facials, and then I'd be accused of doing blackface.
That wouldn't be good.
Yeah. No, I would have to renounce my throne, and you'd have to find a new co-host.
No, I don't want to do that. I've been through too many co-hosts.
You have no idea the struggle it is to do a charcoal mask as a white girl. We have to hide out for 20 minutes. It's so inconvenient.
You are terrible.
I am awful. I watched both Fire Festivals documentaries on Netflix and YouTube this weekend, and yeah, I wish I were a spoiled rich millennial.
No, you don't.
Yeah, no, I don't, because now I like making fun of them. Because nobody died. Bear in mind I highly recommend the Fire Festival documentaries in Netflix and YouTube, and watch them both, and any other subsequent Fire Festival documentaries that they do, because they're awesome. But just remember that nobody died, nobody got hurt. A bunch of rich, spoiled millennials got fleeced out of some money and inconvenienced for 24 hours. That's the major takeaway from this.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's not on my watch list.
I'm
going to be lucky to make it through Boondock Saints 2 this weekend, so
it was one of those. It was like junk food. It was so satisfying, but ultimately probably bad for me.
FYRE, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Super fun.
I don't know. Oh. I'm going to say, if you're going to do that, or you're going to listen to My Favorite Murder, listen to My Favorite Murder.
Do both. Who needs sleep?
I do.
All right. Back to the show.
So, good, bad, and ugly. Tell me you're good.
This entire episode.
Oh, that is cheating.
No, not really. But this entire episode was so broken out into little pieces that kept going back and forth that it was a little hard to pin down in a linear fashion of the things that I liked and disliked. So bear with me. I loved everything about Daryl and Aaron's expedition to find new people for Alexandria. I really would have loved to see more of this. I think that they were a good pair. I think it was very good for Daryl, and I love the way that they did it. I mean, they were following this guy, and even to the point that the guy rubbed some wild leeks on himself to keep the mosquitoes off. And I mean, just that little tidbit right there was super interesting. And that they were listening in on this guy, and then they get trapped in the factory thing, And that whole thing went off. I loved everything about their storyline. Like that, you know, they were expecting to go into this, I think it was like a fruit canning plant to get these trucks. You know, if they couldn't find the survivor, they were going to bring home a truck full of canned goods. And Aaron got all excited about his Alaska license plate. And then they tripped this super elaborate trap.
Did you like catch how elaborate that was? Because I was like, what? How did that all work?
Yeah, there was some like super like trap nerd in the Wolves group that jerry rigged this thing to the hilt, because that was amazing. And it was super effective. And then they get stuck in the car, and their little kind of talks in the car, their heart to hearts. And then Daryl's like, yeah, I'm going to go out. And Aaron's like, you know, you're not going to go out alone. We're doing in this together. And then Morgan shows up at just the right time, and they fight their way through. And Morgan's like, no, I don't want to go with you. I'm lost. Here's this map. And it's the map with the Rick on it. And they all figure out that they all should kind of know each other based on Rick. And that, you know, Morgan's not really lost. He is headed in the right direction. And just everything about the canning factory and the Daryl and Aaron storyline just clicked with me this episode. And even to the point of when the Wolves came back and killed the red poncho guy and reset the trap. I mean, just for some reason, I just loved how clever this all pulled through. It was just great.
Did you catch what song they were playing?
I didn't. I meant to, and then I completely forgot because I was trying to figure out how to pronounce Tova's last name.
It was a remake of the Brian Wilson song Love and Mercy, which is a freaking awesome song. Awesome song.
Okay, the Brian Williams ones or the
Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys?
Yep.
Yeah. So I love his version of it. It's wonderful.
Love and what?
And Mercy.
Okay. It's on the list.
It's terrific.
I have Porch Dick Song and Brian Wilson Love and Mercy. Yeah, so just, I mean, and to the point that they had this mousetrap down so cleverly that they could reherd the walkers into the traps and reset it simply. I mean, it was just very well done, very well thought out. And I loved at the time back in season 5, and I think I still would, Aaron and Daryl dynamic.
Okay,
you know,
here we go.
I love that.
There you go. Love and Mercy. That's what you need tonight. I'm sorry. I totally interrupted you.
It's okay. We need Love and Mercy every night.
Oh my God.
No, but I mean, and this is one thing that I especially now that, okay, one, Aaron has lost his spouse, and spoiler alert, if you were not up on season 9, 3, 2, 1, Jesus is dead. So, and Daryl's kind of feral again. So we need to get this Aaron-Daryl thing back together. I really liked these two together. I loved them in this episode. This is a thing. Go with it.
But they're not a unit. They're just working together.
Right. No. I mean, I think that because they both like to be outside of Alexandria, like searching and exploring and looking for new people, and for different reasons. I think Aaron is truly seeking a connection with other people, and he doesn't feel comfortable inside the walls of Alexandria. And Daryl just doesn't like to be confined like that, and he likes the whole hunting and tracking and nomadic lifestyle. So for different reasons, I think the two mesh really well for their personalities. I'm not shipping them. I'm not.
That's good.
I would have loved to have shipped Aaron and Jesus, but 3, 2, 1 spoiler, that's not happening.
Well, and I think that we are safely in the territory that Daryl is asexual.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been something that I've heard kind of bandied about for a long time, and I think it's true.
Yeah. I think no matter what his sexuality, I think he is the everlasting bachelor. Not to be confused with the everlasting gobstopper. Totally different things.
No, I'm right there with you.
Okay. I was like, oh, come on. That was funny. Phil laughed.
Oh, God, I just realized I forgot to send him the cut from the last podcast where you sang his intro.
What was it? Was it Phil's Comic Book Corner?
Yes.
Phil's Comic Book Corner.
Yeah.
I think I did it better last time. Don't do that one.
You
Don't
did
use
it
that
better
one.
last time.
Always go with the live version. So what was your good for the episode? Was there a good? Because you rated it really low.
Oh, that was brutal. That was kind of picking on me. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I had to turn that knife a little.
So what's really funny is my good is very similar to yours. So my good was Morgan saving Daryl and Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
I was really, really happy that the writers decided not to do a cliffhanger. It was a very, very, very good call. Because I think that if they had done a cliffhanger, that would have been really ugly.
Exactly. And of course, we hadn't found out about Glenn under the dumpster yet, so that I think that kind of would have been a Glenn under the dumpster moment.
Yeah.
Didn't they survive? What happened to them? How'd they survive? Yeah.
So it was that, and then also just the synchronicity of the map with Rick's name on it. I thought that was really cool. Daryl taking Morgan to Alexandria.
Yeah. And luckily, at some point, we find out Morgan had hooked up with Cheeseman and learned that all life was precious. So he saved two strangers in a car, and it all worked out for him. It was kismet.
It was.
Even though he had just had a terrible encounter with two other guys in a car. Well, he put them in the car at the end because he's super nice. But he did trap them there by honking the horn, making the walkers come, which I think was ingenious.
So that is kind of in my list of goods, bad, and uglies, too.
Awesome. So can you guess my bad?
No, tell me you're bad.
Father Gabriel.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, when in doubt, my bad is always Father Gabriel. And he was particularly awful this episode. And not just because he really did leave the gate open this time.
He really did leave the gate open this time.
As opposed to Negan's cell. He was not the only culpable party in that one, but he did leave the cell open this time, or the gate open this time. And he was just really awful to begin with from that, with his whole little, no, I'll leave the grounds and God will protect me. And he's going to go up and confront a walker and then have some sort of last minute epiphany and fight it off. And then he's going to go back and be a porch dick to Sasha about everything.
And not just Sasha, but Spencer, too. I mean, Spencer actually asked him to talk with him about Aiden's death, and he was basically like, yeah, I'll get back to you.
He was so awful and self-righteous this episode. I mean, for a guy who locked all of his parishioners out of his church, he was super judgmental. Yeah, no. I did not like Father Gabriel this episode, and this is one of the reasons why I still have issues with Father Gabriel 4.5 seasons later, is just because he's just, every time you think you might be able to trust him just a little, he takes like 5 steps back. I mean, the crap that he was saying to Sasha was just horrendous, that Bob was mutilated because of her sins and Tyrese deserved to die, and just like he was awful. Like, if he would have died this episode, I would have been completely behind that. And still to this day, because I don't think he's added as much as how awful he's been.
But I do have to say, I think that this episode was the turning point for him.
It was. He broke out crying like a Nancy at the end, and everyone's gonna forgive him. And yeah, no.
Well, I think it was the moment of him praying with Maggie and Sasha. I think that was the thing that really made the difference.
It was. But as a militant atheist, I'm like, whatevs.
Atheist?
Atheist.
Is that the Moscato talking?
Maybe the second half of the last bottle.
Ah, okay.
Dry January is over. So what was your bad for the episode?
So my bad was actually something that you mentioned as well, which is that there were just too many storylines to pull together in one episode.
Yeah.
I felt like it was really all over the map.
It should have been a 2-hour season finale, or they should have done an episode 17.
Well, and so the truth is, I actually went back and watched the episode prior to this to try to put it in context.
Oh,
because
good.
I really felt like watching it out of order and not having seen it for a while, I really felt like I was missing a lot.
The Glenn Nicholas thing was throwing me. I'm like, I should have rewatched the episode before.
Yeah,
but
I totally couldn't remember what it was about. And then I remembered it was about Nicholas basically being the reason that Noah died.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that context until I went back and rewatched the episode prior to this one.
Yeah, there's a scene at the end where Glenn's holding a gun to Nicholas's head and blaming him for Noah's death. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's because Nicholas is a horrible coward.
Mm-hmm.
And because they kind of let walkers build up on fences, which we should have known by now. Yeah.
So I have another bad.
Go for it.
So Morgan's decision to leave the wolves alive has so many repercussions.
Yes.
Not just in this episode, but also in the episode where Alexandria gets stormed by the wolves. And then the whole storyline with the wolf in Alexandria and Morgan trying to conceal him and convert him.
Right. I mean, so guy walks up to your camp pointing a gun at you and is going to take everything from you. Okay. But then he's like, no, you're coming with me, but you're not actually going to be alive. No, that doesn't fly. And then him being like, stay really still. And some guy coming out behind you with the machete. Like, at that point, you're totally justified in killing them. I love what he did by putting them in the car to like keep them to safety, which like sort of like codified his whole all life is precious crap.
Mm-hmm.
But he honked the horn so that when they woke up, the car was going to be surrounded by walkers, which is exactly what they did to Aaron and Daryl. But in Morgan's way, it sort of alleviated his burden to save them, but not save them and not have them on his trail. And like, I didn't kill anyone, but whatever happens in that car happens in that car,
Did you see the little Easter egg in the car?
The rabbit's foot?
Yes, wasn't that awesome?
Yes, I was like, oh, there's that rabbit foot that we were talking about that he put on the altar.
So it wasn't the same rabbit's foot, but it was another rabbit's foot, another piece of luck for Morgan.
Yeah. So, yeah, I totally agree. Like, it's one of those butterfly effect things. Had he killed that wolf or those two wolves at that time, would he have circumvented the effect of, what the wolves did to Alexandria later?
Although I think of course, would it have even been important? So one of the things that was important about the presence of the one wolf in Alexandria is that he saved Denise. But he wouldn't have had to save Denise if Alexandria hadn't been overrun by the wolves in the first place.
Yeah, it's just it's that butterfly effect.
Yeah.
You never know when the one thing that you do or don't do, the rippling repercussions throughout time. How is it going to affect everyone and everything around me? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? And I mean, 90% of the time it'll probably be indifferent, but when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's awful. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm totally with you on that one.
So what about your ugly?
Okay, so this is where we get into the meat of the episode that I warned you about. My ugly was a good ugly. It was a town that invited a small group of people who had been out for a while into their town and suddenly had issue with this new group. This new group was closely knit. They had kept weapons concealed unbeknownst to the town people, and they had caused an issue. But ultimately, in the end, they had kind of had the town's back. And the township doesn't know this new group. It's the other effect, you know, and the group is very suspicious of the town, just having come off the heels of Terminus. Is all of this sounding familiar? This is all the setup for season 9. We have our Rick's group, or now our Michonne's group, are the townspeople, and we have a new group coming in that we can't trust because they're hiding weapons and they're only in it for their tight-knit group. They're very suspicious of the township. The township is suspicious of them. And then we find all of ourselves in a trap, and we've got to come together as a group to battle enemy of my enemy. Right?
Very good. Points to you. Points to Gryffindor.
We have come a full 180 in this. We have become the Alexandrians, and the horrible stuff is out there. The only difference being that obviously Daryl and Michonne and Maggie and Jesus and everybody, Ezekiel, Carol, they all know what is out. They all thought they knew what was out there and the horrendous things that, you know, people do to survive, and you know, can they be reassimilated into a society? And some of them can and some of them can't. And you think you know the worst thing, and then all of a sudden a walker pulls a jujitsu on you and takes you down, you know? Just I feel the parallels with this episode and season 9 with our groups. It's just, yeah. That's why I did this episode instead of the other episode that I wanted to do where they find Jesus. Because I wanted to make that joke.
Right, because that sounds hilarious.
The day The Walking Dead found Jesus. But no, this episode totally resonated with season 9. You know, I'm looking at this. I mean, even to the point where Deanna and her husband and all the Alexandrians get together and they're deciding whether or not, ultimately whether Rick will stay or not.
Oh, yeah, they're basically having a council.
Yes. And you know, I mean, the group is together enough in that if Rick goes, they all go. And the new group we see in season 9, they're kind of the same way. They're close-knit enough that it's not, you know, not any one of them is going to be like, yeah, it was great traveling with you guys, but Alexandria is awesome. See ya. That's not going to happen. Like, you are a close-knit group. You are family. You are going to stay together whether you are all in or all out.
Oh my God, I'm going to totally interrupt you. So hold that thought. You just made me remember another thing that I wanted to share in Whisperer's Corner about the Sonoy Dead Bash.
Oh, good.
So they have Lauren Ridloff, who plays Connie. She's the deaf actress, as their special guest on May 25th and 26th.
Excellent.
So thank you for reminding me of that, because you were talking about the new group.
The new group, yes. Connie, not Connie and Angel Theory?
Just Connie.
Okay.
At this point, that's the only thing that they've announced.
Because they're on the show, I kind of think that they're a duo, and they're both hearing impaired, and so I kind of think that they play on each other really well in the show. So I imagine in real life it's got to be like the terrible twosome, but in a good way. So yeah, that's why I picked this episode, is because I feel very strongly that it is the other side of the coin for our group. They are having to decide whether or not to let this stranger group in when they know they've been out there themselves, and they've seemingly had a bad experience with something that we have yet to find out. But yeah, this episode, it seemed really, really important for the building blocks that have now been shown in our group in season 9.
And they spent so much time defending Rick and what their group has gone through in this episode. That's a very good point.
Mm-hmm. And what's crazy is, think about it, how many Alexandrians are left in Alexandria?
Yeah, it's hard to say because it was a fairly big group. So I think there's still a fair number of Alexandrians left, but our group are the Alexandrians now.
But I mean, you've got Jesse and Sam, the mother, son.
And Ron.
And Pete, Porch Dick, Tobin, he's gone. Deanna and her husband and her 2 sons, like all of the main actors from Alexandria are gone. So it's it's one of those things that just, you let a group in, and I mean, like Rick said, how many people am I going to have to kill before you guys get the message? And that could be any group. I mean, they could be flashing back on that. Michonne could be thinking about, when we came in as the new group, we kind of had a turnover of hierarchy because everyone died. And she doesn't want to be the everyone that dies. So you can see the confliction even before we find out what its major scars on her and Daryl are. So there you go.
It'll be interesting to see if they play back to it. I don't think that anyone really has brought the sense of history that you just brought.
Well, to bastardize a quote from Martin Luther King, the arc of history is long and tends to bend toward holy crap.
Okay, you did bastardize that quite a bit.
Just right there at the end. So what was your ugly?
So mine was mixed. I took a page from your book and it was both bad and good. And it was Gabe's walk in the woods.
Which was my bad. Like, everything about Gabe was bad in this episode.
So, is he suicidal? I mean, what exactly is going on? And the fact that he manages to put down 2 walkers without getting a speck of blood on his glowing white shirt.
I think so. I don't know if we podcasted about this, but I think I have had a conversation about this, and that
we have had a conversation about that glowing white shirt.
Yes. Yep. And his whole walk in the woods. Is it suicidal? Does he really think the god's going to protect him?
I think he's suicidal because I think his ugliness to Spencer and Sasha, when they try to ask him for help, it's really about his own self-loathing.
Right. And then his breakdown at the end where he admits that he let them die. Yeah, I absolutely believe that. But it was a really irritating way to come to that.
Yeah. But I do think that ultimately him coming to that place of making that admission, and like I said, and then sitting and praying with Maggie and Sasha, that was his turning point in the series.
And here's my thing is I found his whole storyline so irritating that it should have either been completely left out of this episode, or it should have been kind of made its own episode, and we should have had an episode 16, 17 or a 2-hour or something. Like, I feel like it's kind of like kettle corn. I hate kettle corn because it's sweet, but it's not sweet enough. I feel like we got just enough of the story to be irritating, but not enough to tell the story. So either tell the story correctly or not at all.
I don't think I could have done 2 hours of this particular episode.
Well, and by that, I mean, like, maybe done a 2-hour episode or maybe done an episode 16, 17. So you had, next week it would have been 17. Like, do, like, Gabriel's BS breakdown story and probably added in maybe the Nicholas Glenn stuff and then done the Rick and Aaron and Daryl and Sasha stuff. Because like you said at the beginning, there was just too much in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was a lot let on the cutting room floor. Yeah. I'm so glad to get that out. Oh.
Well, I have a few things for Rotting Potpourri.
Good.
So I really liked the chit chat between the wolf and Morgan at the beginning in the cold open.
Yes.
I thought that was really eerie, and just kind of the way the guy who played the main wolf played it was really good. I really liked that actor a lot.
I did too, because right up until the guy that attacked Morgan from behind, I felt like the wolf was genuinely looking for a connection because they're used to going into groups and killing everyone or taking them over or whatever. But he really enjoyed this relaxed one-on-one sit down and chat. It was like the movies, and he missed the movies, and like it just. Even his facial expressions sold it, that he was just, it was kind of enjoyable and it was a relief. And it kind of like, I think it would have bugged him to kill Morgan. Not like Red Poncho Guy. Like he was totally on board with killing Red Poncho Guy. But Morgan, he was just kind of like, no, this dude would be kind of cool to have around.
But he still in the end was like, I'm taking every last drop and I'm taking you too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no. He was a sociopath. Yeah. No, there was no way around that. There was no talking him out of it. There was no talking him down. It's just what the wolves do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. I loved we have the one line from Abraham this episode about the vast oceans of crap.
Yeah.
But Carol had some good ones this episode, too.
Oh, she was so brutal to Pete, and it was really nice.
Yes. And I love that. I want my dish back when you're clean, when you're done. And then her line about, because they're children, and children like stories.
Mm-hmm.
Just savage, conniving Carol.
Oh, and her
episode.
line to Rick where she says, oh, sunshine, you don't get both.
Oh, yes. She said, you said you don't want to take this place over, but you don't want to lie. Oh, sunshine, you can't have both.
Yeah.
I loved it. She just had some great episodes. I mean, I think we've talked about this when it happened is, cookie baking Carol meets like, I'm going to gut a kid, Carol,
Nice. Or at least I'm going to gut a Pete, Carol.
Right? I love when she threatened to, in another episode, she threatened to tie one of the kids to the trees or something.
She threatened Sam.
She was awful,
Yeah.
but in the best way.
She was really horrible to Sam.
Speaking as two women who do not have children.
Right.
Oh. And then I also loved the line when Reg, who is Deanna's husband, followed Maggie out and said, civilization stops when you stop running and start living together and stop pushing people away.
I actually wrote that down.
Because Michonne has basically been alluding to that for this half of the season. Basically, we had the jail. We've been on the run since then. We need to stop. Being out here is making us cruel, murdering people. And we need to stop and build a society.
But going back to your point about this kind of mirroring season 9, now Michonne is in that place where she's pushing people away and pushing civilization away.
Right. And she's conflicted. I mean, did you watch the post-credit scene?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her
sword.
Picking her sword back up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I would just like to also point out that Alexandria's walls always sucked.
They suck in the comic book too.
They were braced from the outside.
Yeah, they suck in the comic book too.
Oh my God, how did they survive that long? I realized I think season 6 is when we confronted the horde at the quarry, right?
Yeah, I think that was
like
the beginning
so.
of season 6.
Yeah, and you know, bracing your walls from the inside when you're trying to keep people out, not a solid plan. Yeah. So I was watching the point where Sasha was outside the walls and she was picking up all of the dead walkers and everything, and I just saw the walls braced from outside and I was just like, oh, I forgot how terrible their wall was. Don't build the wall.
And Reg was supposedly an architect.
I know. I mean, granted, they cobbled this thing together from supplies from a mall that was being built, which is super clever. But seriously, if you're trying to keep things out, brace from the inside. Or both sides. Like, I don't know. Just, yeah, it sucked. Oh, what else do you got?
Well, I liked Bob's voiceover talking to Rick, where he was like, this is a nightmare and nightmares end.
I loved Bob's voiceover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nightmares end and you're going to have to live in society or something again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That was good. Poor Glenn.
Shot in the
God.
shoulder.
I really think that Glenn's eventual death was a mercy killing for poor Glenn. Like, God, that guy, like, lowered down into a well. He always had the crap jobs, and then he gets shot in the shoulder by Nicholas after the whole Noah incident. And then we kind of finish up under the dumpster, but not really. And then Lucille. Like, poor Glenn. It was a mercy killing at that point.
Ow. I don't think so.
Well, like, how much more could we put this guy through? We were either going to have to kill him or put him out to pasture.
Glenn was tough. Glenn could have taken a lot more.
He was. Glenn would have been like the good, like, I'm not going outside the walls anymore. I think I'm just going to run things from inside here with my wife and my kid.
So what's really interesting is in the comic books, Phil's Comic Corner, Aaron actually says in this kind of arc that he and Eric are not going to go outside the walls anymore.
See? Yeah. God, and Deanna's kids were awful.
Yeah, they were awful.
Both turned out to be just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Honestly, like, okay, so this is another, like, a butterfly effect moment when Glenn was holding the gun to Nicholas's head in the woods and they were, like, crying and fighting and doing whatever and talking about Noah's death and blaming each other and everything. Other than being on Glenn's conscience, how bad would it have been to shoot Nicholas? Not very. The answer's not very bad.
Yeah, Nicholas would not have been missed.
Yeah, I mean, and hindsight is 20/20, but you know, Deanna lost Reg that night. I think Nicholas would have just been like, "Oh, that's another crappy thing that happened." But I remember my husband.
The first time that Glenn killed was when they killed at the Savior Outpost. So I don't think Glenn was prepared to do it.
Yeah, no, he was not ready. No, that cake needed a little more baking.
So,
and then,
go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
I was just going to say another moment that I really liked was we finally get the apology between Abraham and Eugene. And it's all because Rosita knocks the bedpan off of the counter and wakes Eugene up in the infirmary.
Whoops.
Yeah, that was super funny.
That was the best. Do you remember when Rosita was super fun like that? Because I don't. She's super dramatic now. She's all hard and stuff.
Well, she was intermittently difficult and not funny then. So
yeah, but when her and Abe were a thing,
yeah, that's true. She did have some funny lines when she and Abe were a thing.
Yeah, and there was that whole creepy thing when in the library with Abraham watching, and not Abraham, Eugene watching. Yeah.
Well, losing your boyfriend in the apocalypse does tend to harden you.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I miss the old days when Sasha and Abraham were fun. I miss Abraham so bad when him and Eugene had his little moment and he apologized and everything. I was looking at it, I was like, Michael Cutlass, I miss you. Like, I know you're going to probably direct some more episodes, but it doesn't count. You're still not on the show. Ugh.
He was a funny character.
He didn't deserve to die.
Neither did Glenn.
Nobody didn't deserve to die, but I'm just like, only one of them was supposed to die. But we got a twofer. And not the good Daryl. Oh, yeah, that kind of was Daryl's fault.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me sad. Or it's the Moscato kicking out. So, we leave off just about at the end of the episode with Morgan going, "Hi, Rick." And of course, Rick had just executed Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a way to come back. This was only the 5th reappearance of Morgan for the series, and I think the 3rd for this season. And we'd only got the little tidbits after the credits. We didn't know. The last time we saw him was Clear, and he was all crazy and stuff. And the tables have definitely turned because Rick was covered in blood and executing a guy in front of everyone. So, hi, Rick.
It sets it up for a perfect conflict.
It does. It was so well done. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I was really happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I think that is all that I have.
So I have a little bit in Comics Corner.
Oh, good.
I kind of went down the rabbit hole of how did we get Morgan back because I couldn't remember that.
Okay.
So in volume 10, the collected volumes, which is entitled What We Become, the group is on the road. So they actually have they actually have Abe, Rosita, Eugene, Dale is still alive, Andrea's still alive, and they're all kind of on the road, and they're near the town that Rick used to live in. So Rick and I want to say Abraham and Carl go on a run together to basically raid the police station back at the town that Rick used to live in. And Rick is like, we're not far from there. I know where we can get some weapons. And besides, there are some people that I want to check on. And so he actually goes and checks on Morgan. And what happens but Morgan whacks him in the head with a shovel. And Rick is like, Dwayne? And then you actually find out that Dwayne has been bitten and turned.
Oh.
And Morgan has him chained up the way that the governor had Penny chained up.
I'm so glad they departed from the comic books on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so he's kind of crazy the way that he is in Clear, but not quite. He's not quite as unstable as he is in Clear. And Rick convinces him to, at least he thinks, put Dwayne down and come with them. And what actually happens is he turns Dwayne's zombie loose and comes with Rick, Carl, and Abe and goes back to the main group.
That is super surprising. Because didn't he eventually put down his wife?
No, he did not.
Oh, okay.
And the reason in the series that Dwayne dies is Dwayne is bitten by Morgan's wife.
Yeah. That's heart-wrenching. I really like the TV storyline better for that. That's a bit too much. I mean, we go to some really dark places with this show, and I just that's a little beyond dark for me. That's a little too much.
Well, we have dark source material.
We do. And fortunately, it does have to be watered down for the masses.
It's not very watered down. I was just listening to a reaction episode to the season 7 opener, and there are a lot of people who were really put off by that. So I don't think that The Walking Dead waters very much down.
No, and we were talking about the episode where Carl almost got raped. So I mean, it is super dark source material, and sometimes I'm really glad that they don't give us the full peek behind the curtain.
So what's interesting is that actually happens in this kind of round of comic books that I read too. Carl actually does get nearly raped.
Ooh, yeah.
There's a group of attackers before they go back to get Morgan, and the group is on the road kind of trying to figure out where they're going to go next. They have not gotten to the prison yet. There's a group of attackers, and the attackers basically do what the Claimers did in terms of their attack on the group. And Rick actually bites out the leader's neck.
Yeah, which happened in the show.
Yeah, and it happens in the comic book too.
Wow, that is such a downer. You seriously need to stop reading the comic book and listen to a podcast put on Inmates by San Quentin.
Why is it a downer? It's so good.
I mean, it is good. It definitely is good. But I like the departures that they are making with the characters. And I've said it before with other books. I was a Charlene Harris fan who did the HBO True Blood. And there was a character that actually died at the end of the first book. And he was such a fan favorite. They kept him on throughout the series. And it's one of those where I absolutely loved the change between the books and the show. And I kind of Daryl not being in the books at all. I love him on the show. So, I mean, sometimes you really have to stay true to your source material. And sometimes it's very, very hard on the fans when you're not, AKA Carl's death. What?
Right.
But sometimes I'm right there with you on, not making Morgan crazy and having his zombie kid on a chain.
But another thing that's been really fun about going back and reading the comics with kind of this perspective is seeing how they've mixed up some of the storylines. I've actually really enjoyed that. So the morning after Rick bites out that guy's neck, in the series, you have him and Daryl leaning up against the side of that SUV talking, and he calls Daryl his brother. Mm-hmm. Well, in the comics, you actually have Abe and Rick sitting up against the side of a car, and you actually get Abe's backstory at that point.
Okay.
So another spoiler, and this is a big spoiler, so if people don't want to hear what happened in the comic books, they should fast forward a bit. But in volume 13, which is called Too Far Gone, we actually see Morgan's end. So Morgan actually does not live past the prison.
So, of course, which says nothing about what they're going to do with this character in the show, because we've technically lost Morgan on the main show, but he is now on Fear the Walking Dead in the past.
And there's still rumors that he's going to somehow come back to the main show, but I don't know how they're going to do that.
Right. They're going to have to take a major fast forward with Fear the Walking Dead. I could totally see them doing it. And I would like to see that. And, we could lose Morgan at some point. Nobody is safe. And I think I would be okay with it. He's been a great character. He's lived long past his comic book shelf life. And I think his show character is better for it. So yeah.
So
I'm into it.
What's pretty cool, and I'm sorry, he actually dies in No Way Out, which is volume 14, but what's pretty cool about his death, tell me if this death sounds familiar. So he gets bitten, his arm gets cut off, and he bleeds out.
Tyrese, anyone?
Right, he totally gets Tyrese's death.
I love how they're mixing that up. So here's the thing. When you start watching a show that's got source material like this, I love when they follow absolutely true to the story until they really, really don't. And then they just veer off into the stratosphere. And it's like it's taking place in the same universe, but it is not its source material. And I think we are at this point, especially because we have a compendium show. We have all of Rick's movies coming up and 10 more years worth of Walking Dead universe. We are just totally out there right now. And I love it.
So another thing that's really cool, and you probably know this and remember this, but actually in the comic book series, Reg is Regina, actually the wife.
Yes.
And Deanna is Douglas, the husband.
I do remember that. Yeah. Yep.
So
and I like how they made her kind of the leader, but Reg was no pushover.
But he definitely deferred to Deanna, and I like that.
He did, but he was like the wisdom behind her firebrand leadership.
But I think she still wore the pants.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see what else. So they don't have a big council meeting in Too Far Gone to see if they keep Rick or not. Douglas actually meets with him privately and agrees to keep him on as a constable and basically says, don't ever question my leadership again. But he does not attempt to have a big council meeting and consider kicking him out the way that they do in the series. Pete does have his not my house breakdown.
I liked that too.
Yeah. And he grabs a kitchen knife out of the house and goes and kills Regina with that.
Regina,
Reg.
Oh, okay, Reg.
Yeah.
Not his wife, Jess.
No, he goes and he kills the wife of the leader of Alexandria.
Okay, just like he goes and kills the husband of the leader of Alexandria in this show.
Exactly. Yeah. And Douglas, who is actually Deanna in the series, looks up at Rick and says exactly what Deanna says, which is, Rick, do it. Giving Rick permission to kill Pete.
Yep.
So there's a lot of stuff that's pulled directly from the comics, and once again, there's a lot of stuff that's really kind of mixed up.
Right. All right. I think we've sufficiently talked this one to death. We're an hour and a half into a show that is an hour long.
I think it was an hour and 5, to be fair, but
so our featured cast member, you can find her on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, but she also has her own webpage, Tova Feldsha.
Good Lord, you are all over the map, girlfriend.
I am. I'm tired. Well, and okay, and I will, in my defense, what got me is what I am looking at is you can buy Tallulah Hallelujah on CD for $20 at tovafindleshow.com.
Tova Feldsha.
That. Burns all.
You're killing me, Smalls.
So she has a shop where you can buy her CDs of some of her one-man shows. And then she has links to where you can buy tickets to her soon-to-be Broadway shows, like the ones I mentioned earlier, the one you can't see anymore, and the one about Leona Helmsley. Which,
Cool.
if you are in the area, oh my God, go watch it and like give us a play-by-play. It sounds amazing. Like, seriously, if you don't know who Leona Helmsley is, just read the Wikipedia. That's all you need. It's amazing.
Very good.
Very good.
All right.
All
So
right.
next week, Boondock Saints 2.
Yes.
And until
Excited.
then,
Just remember,
take it one dead
day
day at a time.
at a time.
You're totally waiting for me to do it this time.
Waiting on
All right, everybody, have a good week.
you. You have an awesome one.
Bye.
Bye.